get that. I'll share the screen. And let's get started, Dr. Revis. We got a lot to cover.
Well, good evening, folks. We are on week 6, and you are almost halfway. You've got another week, and I deem that halfway. So, had a lot to do this week, and I know that task 4 was rather a lot of narrative work, along with work with your PLC. And Dr. Stedman, I was very pleased with the work that came in with that. I feel like that the majority of you really put some time into thinking about the different pieces and writing narratively about the different pieces of your action plan, and that was obvious. And I was very pleased with that. And many of you, I don't know if this was planned or not, but many of you have your administrator on your PLC team. And wow, that really cuts down on the time that you have to put into it to have a second presentation with them. So just be sure you are noting that. And when you do your presentation in task 4 to your admin team, and even if you need to put a disclaimer in that your admin was part of your PLC, do that immediately after your action plan figure, because that's where evaluators will want to see that. Evaluators go through your work very, very quickly, and they like to be able to see things, and that's where they're accustomed to seeing you write narratively about that presentation to your admin team. So I was very pleased with that. I have a confession to make. I have looked at no peer reviews that have come in this week, and I do apologize, but I'm sure they're strong as usual. So, Dr. Stedman, how about your group?
Same thing. I've sent, some particulars back, for revision, and the biggest thing, and again, overall, a phenomenal job. Several have already cleared and moved on to task 5. So, very, very excellent work. Peer reviews, for the most part, have been on point. Just remember, even when you find it hard to find something to look at, it's still your job as the administrator. You can't, an effective peer review or an effective evaluation has got to have some meat or content to it. So, don't, it's a work in progress, and you've got to work hard to do it. Some of them still are doing exemplary work with them, and I could use them as an example, Dr. Revis, even up to task 4 that was just done. So just don't backslide on me on those, or us on those. The biggest thing, Dr. Revis, and let's go ahead and camp out there before we go into anything else, is with this is the formative and summative assessments. That is where a few people, maybe several, had issues with doing the formative and summative assessments. I had seen it back highlighted and remind them that the formative assessments for this assignment is not for the students. It's fidelity checks for the teachers involved. When you do that action plan, how do you know that teachers are doing what they're supposed to do? You can't just say, okay, here's the action plan and do it. How do you know it's being implemented? How do you know it's being effective? Your job as the PLC leader, administration's job, the literacy coach's job, whomever, somebody in leadership, the jobs are for those people to monitor the teachers in the process of those five, six activities that you are proposing for in your action plan. So again, the formative is not for the students at all. You're not formatively assessing the students for this activity. You are summatively assessing them. And the formative is for adults only. And I had some to question, they still didn't understand that. So let's camp out there, Dr. Revis. What else can we say to drive that point?
Well, I'm not really sure. I was hoping that we had emphasized that enough. Again, it takes you out of your comfort zone when we talk about, because in the classroom as an instructor, when you're teaching about the business of teaching and learning with students, formative assessment means something totally different than what how we're asking you to apply here. And I'm sorry, I wish there was a different word we could use that maybe wasn't so confusing, but that's what the evaluators will look for, and that's what we have to do.
And
so you're just gonna
your mindset is you're thinking as a teacher on this. And remember, we told you you've got to begin thinking as an administrator. Remember, you are not evaluating students. You are working and leading teachers. Teachers are the ones that make a difference with the students. You make a difference with teachers as the leader. That's your job. So the fidelity check is for you and others in leadership to make sure that teachers are implementing with fidelity. In other words, what are you going to do? Is it going to be a walkthrough? And it shouldn't all be walkthroughs. Is it going to be a lesson plan check? If it's a program, is there an assessment tool in that program that you can monitor to make sure that teachers are doing things? If you say twice a week, how do you know they're doing it twice a week? And who's going to monitor that? You've got to be specific with that. And that needs to be, your narrative work needs to mirror what you've got in your action plan. So just make sure that you
and along that line, I had a few people who would just write a couple brief sentences in a section and refer to figure 12. But the purpose of your narrative part is to discuss what is in your action plan in figure 12 narratively. And so I had a few people that I had to tell that you're gonna have to narratively explain this piece.
Right. And Dr. Revis, just one more thing, and we won't camp out there anymore. APA reminders, folks, it's not going to change from one week to the next. The APA that we required from week 1, week 2 is still the APA that we're requiring week 5, week 4, week 5, week 6. The in-text citations, that hasn't changed. The APA capitalization, that has not changed. How you write figures, that has not changed. So, take the time to look at those things and to make sure that you are addressing them as close to being perfect as you can the first time you submit it, because there's some things that it's, 1 week you'll do it right, the next week you go back. So again, I think it's just maybe rushing at the last minute to try to get something in and not doing that, your personal fidelity check. So, go back and look at that and make sure. But that's all I'm going to say about that, Dr. Revis. I think we've said enough. What about your Zoom team assignments, Dr. Revis?
Well, I was very, very pleased with the Zoom team process. I just have to shout out to the Zoom masters for this first round. Liz, Joshua, Larry, and Emmy. All 4 of you did an outstanding job. You were very prepared. You either had a PowerPoint with an agenda or shared an agenda on the screen. all of you had the order in which you wanted participants to share, and you were your own timekeeper and kept things moving very quickly. I felt like that, the most meaningful thing for me to hear was when you shared about how you've grown in your leadership. And I do have to say that I can see your growth, and I'm really glad that you can reflect and see your own growth in these short 5 weeks. 5 weeks, guys.
Right.
You have turned a corner, and you are now looking at things through the lens of an administrator.
Right.
So I'm very pleased to see that. But it was very evident that you came to the Zoom sessions prepared. Now, if you did not cite some of your readings, I did count off 5 points. The next time when we do a case study, I'm going to get a little tougher and count off 10 points. This one was a little hard to work in some of your readings, and the first time you're doing it, so I get that. So just remember, now when we get to our case study, which is coming up in a couple weeks, you have got to support your ideas and your perspectives with research or with the work that we've been doing in the AAPSL. And we'll talk about that later.
Right. And the same thing with mine. I don't have it in front of me, but all of my leaders did an exceptional job, every one of them. And the teams, and I like that the leaders made sure that everybody stayed on task to the best of their ability, and just really did a great job guiding the process. I will say that, let's see, Randy, Daryl was your leader, right?
Tremaine was.
Tremaine. I want to say, Tremaine, your leadership, all of them did great, but I want to give Tremaine a thumbs up, and that team. I enjoyed all of them, but that team, they really focused on already what this program has meant to them, and they began looking through the lens of an administrator as to looking at their present administrators. Tremaine even talked about, he said, I've seen my assistant principal run around here like a chicken with her head cut off. He said, now I understand why at times, he said, and all of them agreed that, that they felt already getting very well prepared for that first opportunity when they become assistant principals, and others did too. But that team really, really, really did a strong focus on that, and kudos to that team for that. So,
So as I said, we're coming up with a case study. So be thinking about who's going to be the next Zoom leader, and just step up to the plate, and everybody's going to have to do it. So step up to the plate, and let's see a good round of Zoom sessions on this case study that we're going to do in a few weeks.
And I may come back to Blackboard reminders as it relates to any of these topics down here, but I'm going to pass that right now. We're going to go into an introduction to AAPSL Task 5. Now, one of the things you've got to remember that this week Task 4 is due for a final grade, and guess what? Task 5 will be due for a final grade on Sunday as well. So you don't do peer reviews with it. You only give it to us, Dr. Revis and me. So once we go over Task 5 tonight, you need to get started on it immediately. Send it to us for a review so we can tell you what to do with it, whether you've got to correct it or whether you've got to whether you can move forward. So with that in mind, I'm going to bring up Task 5. And I'm not going to begin with the helpful hints this time, Dr. Revis. I went back and looked through our documents. I've got it, and I'm going to pull it up. But I'm going to go back through our documents. I actually want to look at the template, the AAPSL template. And let's look at what it says. in task 5, you're going to reflect on the AAPSL experience. You've talked about it a little bit already, but that was with your team. But what you're going to do, your responsibility is to narratively, only narratively with this, you're going to reflect on your experience by aligning the course content, what you've done with the AAPSL, to your actual clinical experience. You're going to reflect on the development of competencies and dispositions that are so critical to effective school leadership. So let's look down here at prompt 1, what you've got to do. And remember, again, if it's in yellow, that means you've got to write something, and make sure that you always take the yellow highlighting out once you're through with that. You're going to see that we have for each of the competencies that we've given you examples for, you're going to see colors. You're going to see red and green. You don't use red and green. This is just us to explain it to you and show you the difference. It's going to be 12 competencies, and I'll show you those in a minute where they are. 12 competencies that you are required to do for the AAPSL. There's 21 competencies altogether. You've got to do 12 of them for the AAPSL for this assignment. And 8 of them are already determined what they're going to be, communication being one of them. And I'll go over the other 7 in a moment. And then you will select from the remaining 21 4 more of your choice. So everybody will have the same 8, and then there will be 4 that could be different for everybody. So let's look at what that looks like. You see the heading. Communication is one of your competencies. So you see it's to the left, it's bold-faced, and then you're going to write about communication as it relates. You're going to do 2 things. You're going to talk about communication as it relates to your work with the AAPSL, and then you're going to write about communication as it relates or related to your clinical experience, your work in the school doing things. So you're going to do 2 things. Now let's look at this. This is in the red. This is your work as with the AAPSL. Communication. This competency is the most, and this was how the author wrote this. The person we copied this from another student's work to show you. This competency is the most important in my opinion. I feel that when there is successful communication, there is effective success and change occurring. It's okay to have an opinion somewhat with some of these. When I first began working on the AAPSL in task 1, I needed to research and create a PLC in my school. In order to complete this task, I needed to obtain approval from my principal to acquire access to the data and work with members of the school in a PLC to analyze and interpret school data to identify the most pressing need. Now, here's where communication comes in. I emailed for permission and chose 4 staff members to invite. During our first meeting, I presented to my new PLC the research behind what a PLC is and its purpose. That's communication to that PLC. And it goes on to talk about other things that they have done in the AAPSL experience, working with that PLC in the school and with or in the school and with their team. Next, the green is going to represent. Now, remember, you're not going to use green and red. This is just for clarity purposes. The green represents their clinical experience. This person clearly said in the beginning, during my clinical experiences, I learned that communication with stakeholders is key running a successful organization. When I was tasked with organizing the after-school bus schedule for our after-school program, I had to make sure I communicated with the bus drivers, teachers, parents, and students, and bus garage staff. And it goes on to talk about that. Do you see the distinction between the 2? The first one clearly talked about their work in the PLC process with the AAPSL. The second one clearly talks about their clinical experience. Now, if it were me, I would begin my work experience with saying, while working with the AAPSL, during my clinical experience, and put them in two separate paragraphs, putting your AAPSL experience first, your clinical experience second, and make sure that we can clearly delineate between the two for each of your competencies. And more importantly, that your evaluator has no problem seeing that there are two different things for each of the 12 competencies that you're going to do for the AAPSL. Now, you've got this is the template. This is in the template example. So you've got this same information that I've pulled up here in your AAPSL template and material section. The same thing, change management is one. Now notice, change management is two words. It's a heading. Do you see a capital C and a capital M? Don't put a big C and a little m there. Make sure your heading has two capital letters there. And notice what this one did in your reading. She said, or they said, according to Ubben and all. And see, this is proof. This goes back, Dr. Revis, to some of the readings that they were supposed to do. This is a great opportunity to prove to us and to the evaluators that you are incorporating those readings that you are supposed to be doing as well. And then again, I'm going to just do one more. During my clinical experiences, I saw firsthand how difficult change can be for some adults. And they went on to explain it. Again, delegation, and it goes on, and it gives you just vivid examples of every one of them. But what I want you to do is scroll all the way down to the bottom. I'll get there. Okay, you'll find this at the bottom of that same document where your AAPSL template is. This is the template. Okay, these are directions only. So you're going to take all this stuff. You're not going to use this in your document. This is for your information only. Okay. These are the 8, the AAPSL that you're required to do. Everybody will have communication. Everybody will have change management. Everybody will have delegation. Everybody will have dialogue inquiry, and that's 1 right there. Everybody will have judgment. Everybody will have systems thinking, and that T should have been capitalized. Everybody will have technology, and everybody will have visionary. Now, again, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It doesn't stop there. Let's go on down. Those are the required ones. Okay, now you have a list of all 21, and included in this 21 are the 8 that I just went over. Now, beyond that, that means that if you have 8 required and there's 21, then 8 from 21 is what? How many's left? Somebody speak up. What's 8 from 21? 13. Okay, so there's 13 left. Now, out of that 13 left, Tanya, how many more have you got to pick out of that 13? You've got to pick 4. So out of that remaining 13, you've got to pick 4 more on your own and do the same thing that we talked about at the top of this document. So if there's 8 required, 4 that you pick on your own, that's 12. So that means it leaves how many left? That's 9. There's 9 left after you do these 12. Guess when you're going to do that 9? When you finish the AAPTEL. That's going to be task 4 of the AAPTEL. So you don't even need to worry about them until we get task 3 done with the AAPTEL. There's going to be 9 left that you'll do with the AAPTEL. And you will have to do this every semester that you're in the program. All 21 of these will be addressed each of the 3 semesters. They'll be addressed differently for the evidence that you're working with the OMA that you'll do next semester, and the SCIP and the SIOP and all. You'll do the numbers will change based on the task that you're working on or the evidence that you're working on. But for all purposes this semester, you do 12 for the AAPSL, you do the remaining 9 for the APTEL. And again, this document, it explains, a good explanation of what you're supposed to be looking for in these competencies. Okay. Dr. Revis, can you think of anything else differently that I need to say with that?
I don't think there's anything really differently. Two things, guys, this is your reflection. You don't have to convene your PLC this week. So that will be nice. And secondly, it's not optional. You must write a reflection from both your APSL work and your internship work for each competency. Okay? For each of the 12 competencies in that task. And again, you're not going to peer review these. These will just be seen by your instructor.
And you can find it, the template is going to give you your best resource for this. But you can also find it in the helpful hints document under task 5. This gives you some more examples. So this is a good place to go back and look at a different example than what we used with in the template. And then one more place, remember you have a completed APSL. Task 5 with your completed APSL gives you another opportunity. These are 3 different places you can go and look at great, just great examples of what you're supposed to do. Okay, Dr. Everson, we don't normally do this, but before we go any further, I think we need to ask, does everybody know what you've got to do with those 12 competencies that we need to see them? Don't wait until Sunday to send them to us for review. We need to see them before Sunday. If possible, I'd love to see, and if you sit down, you can knock this out in about a couple of hours. If you just sit down and really concentrate on this. So I'd love to see them, if possible, by Friday evening. So that gives us time to look at them and get them back to you so that you have time to revise. Honestly, if you'll get them to us, we can get them back to you and you will have this task over with well before Sunday. You don't have to worry about the peer reviews with this. Like Dr. Revis said, it's only for us. Tanya?
And are we sending those to you in your email?
No.
Or is there somewhere to submit it?
You're going to put them in a thread just like you did.
Oh, okay. I'm just making sure.
This is task 5. So you did just like you did task 4. Okay. The only thing is your peers will not be dealing with it. Only Dr. Revis and I will be dealing with it. Okay. Is everybody good? Okay. Now next, Dr. Revis is going to take it from here. Remember, Dr. Lamb talked about, let me pull my stuff back up. Dr. Lamb talked about early on about 2 things you've got to do with those 21 competencies. Josh, did you have a question about that?
Yeah, I just want to make sure the order of those competencies, does it matter which order we put those in? The first 2 are not alphabetical.
No, you can put them in any order you want to, Josh. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, just want to make sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. But remember early on, Brandon?
Yes, you said they do Friday?
No, I said it would be nice to have them Friday if possible. So as many, and I know how many of you work. Many of you, you're going to have them ready by Thursday. Some of you will. You don't have you don't have to come together with a Zoom team on Thursday. So this would be a good time to really put the quality time in. if we see them on Friday, we can review them and get them back to you in plenty of time to make revisions and not have to rush. If we can't get them Sunday to review and send them back for, it would help us a lot because they're due for a final grade on Sunday. Okay.
So this is a little bit different, folks, than what you've been doing.
Right.
Okay, so this Thursday at 6 p.m., your revisions for task 4 are due. This Sunday at 6 p.m., 2 things are due final, your task 5 and your task 4.
And that's why I said, don't wait until Sunday to send us task 5 for a review. Okay. And Dr. Revis, I've cleared 99% of task 4. So, I mean, they can move on to task 5 easily with no problem. Okay. But early on, Dr. Lamb shared with you that you'll be doing 2 things with those 21 competencies. I have shared with you what you're going to do, one way you're going to do it, and that is with task 5 of the AAPSL, and then you'll do the same thing with task 4 of the AAPTEL, which we'll talk about in a few weeks. Dr. Revis is going to show you how you take those same 12 competencies that you've chosen for the AAPSL, the 8 that you have to do and the 4 that you choose, those same 12 competencies that has to go into your competency folio. Okay, now from what I talked about is the narrative part of it. Dr. Revis is going to give you a different perspective on what you've got to do with them and where to put them. Dr. Revis?
Okay. So what I want us to do is look over to the side, and you're going to see MSA handbooks and competency folio resources. So if you click on there, you remember, I guess maybe it was in week 2 or 3, I can't remember. Dr. Lamb showed you how to set up your competency folio. Now, if you're like me, I've slept since then, but the good thing is right here is a quick video. How to set up your competency folio. You really have 2 portfolios, electronic portfolios. You have one in which you're going to upload your AAPSL, your big task and artifact evidence work. And your AAPSL and APT will go there. Then you have another folio that in which you have to make, and that's where your competency folio comes in. So with the competencies, you're going to house all of your narrative work and artifacts from the competencies in this folio. They both live in TaskStream, but they live separately. Okay, they both live in TaskStream, but they live separately. At the end of your program, you merge them, but right now they're separate. So I'm not going to go over this video because you can look at it, stop it. It's only about 4 or 5 steps. If I can do it, you guys can do it. You're very tech savvy, much more than I am.
And
Okay.
Dr. Revis, where did they find that in Blackboard? Where did they find this page you're on right here?
MSA handbooks and competency folio resources. And how to set up your competency folio. All right, now, I think it was Joshua asked, can I rearrange those competencies in any way? Yes, you can do whatever you want to do in task 5. But once you set up your competency folio, don't start rearranging anything. All right, leave it as it is. So I'm going to show you an example of a competency folio. So this is one that we had a student, really strong student. I think she took the class in 2017, fall 2017. So on the left-hand side are all 21 competencies. You will have 3 artifacts for all 21, except for digital learning competencies. You will not have 3 for digital learning because those are woven in the other 20.
So,
You
so
will-
Dr. Travis, that means that when I get to digital learning competencies, do I have to put anything? Do I have to click on that and do anything?
there's nothing there.
There's
Okay.
nothing there but information.
Information only. All right. If I were really good technologically, what I would do is I would put up that template. And you might want to pull up that template where it lists your 8 competencies that you're required to do, and kind of look at it and look at my screen at the same time. Excuse me. We're going to start with communication. That's one of your required ones. So if I open it up, now nothing's going to be here except for this. This is in your folio. You leave it in your folio. Do not delete it. Do not move it. Don't do anything. All right. That's part of the folio template. But notice it tells you for the competency communication, by the end of your program, you're going to have 3 evidences. And it tells you where you pull those evidences from. One of the evidences comes from your AAPSL, one from your SIOP, which you will not do until your 3rd semester, I believe, and one open-ended. When it says open-ended, that means from your clinical work. Let me repeat that. Open-ended means from your clinical work. All right. So I want to just look at format, first of all. You're going to do this. You're going to do one and upload it. It's one of your required one for task 5, and you have to upload one from the AAPSL.
Dr. Travis,
Notice,
yeah, can I ask you a question? And
Sure.
you may be leading into this, and if you are, then tell me. So I see up there evidences, AAPSL, SIOP, and open-ended. Well, I don't even know about the SIOP yet, but I'm assuming that that's going to be something in this program another semester. So that means you're not going to, I don't have anything to do with the SIOP this time, right?
Right.
So, but I completed the AAPSL this time. So logically, my evidence, my artifact for communication this time should come from the AAPSL, not even from an open-ended, right? And the SIOP, if I understand, is the last semester that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
So you do the AAPSL this time, and you do the SIOP at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
What will you be doing next semester for communication? Anybody out of those 3?
The open-ended?
The open-ended, that good. Just wanted to point that out. That's up there for a reason. So AAPSL's going to be this time because you're completing the AAPSL. SIOP's going to be at the very end of the program because that's when you do the SIOP. So next semester, you're going to do the open-ended from your clinical experience. Go ahead, Dr. Revis. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. It's so simple that it's hard. Okay. If it says AAPSL, I want something that you learned while doing the PLC work for the AAPSL. Don't give me something from your clinical work.
Right.
Okay. So notice you don't have a large narrative. Now, in your reflection that you're writing for task 5, it's probably much longer than this.
And much more detailed.
And much more detailed. All you're doing here is you're writing a brief. In fact, I think this is too much. I wouldn't write this much, but you can. You don't need this first part right here. You don't need to go back through and tell what you think it is. Don't need that. All you need to do is say, I demonstrated the I demonstrated the I'll get it in a minute. I demonstrated the communication competency during my AAPSL work when I did ... Okay. You're going to probably talk about when you did communication to your principal, when you communicated with your PLC members, and even maybe when you prepared for those PLC meetings. But you don't have to put all this lead-in stuff. Just go straight to I demonstrated communication during the AAPSL when I did whatever. Describe whatever. Okay. Now, she's talking about she hosted meetings by setting agendas and facilitating PLC. That's the crux of it right there. If I'm grading your folio, that's really all I want to see. Because what's different in your competency folio is you have to upload an artifact, a thing. It's not just narrative work. You've got to upload a thing. So down here at the bottom.
But Dr. Revis, what you highlighted up there, that just simply is a one sentence telling me what the thing is, right?
That's what it is.
Something about the thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll need this other stuff. Okay.
Because I've already done all this with the AAPSL Task 5, right?
Right.
I've done all that negative work with AAPSL Task 5, so we don't need to regurgitate that again.
And so down here, I want you first of all to notice how she labeled this file. I know real quickly, if I'm grading this folio, I know this one goes with her AAPSL. This one goes with her open-ended. Like you said, that's going to be in the second semester. And this one comes from her PSYOP that she did third semester. I know that because I know which one goes with which description. And this particular person, I'll just open it up. She talked about when she was, now you're going to get to see my wonky computer. And if anybody can tell me how to fix this, my grandson went onto my computer and somehow he has made, every time I pull something up, I have to go into this. If you can tell me how to undo what he has done, I will give you 5 extra points. No, I'm just kidding. I probably would give you 100 because this, I can't figure it out. I've even had the Geek Squad on it. Okay. And this, what she's uploaded is an artifact, a thing. She's uploaded her PLC agendas is what she's uploaded. You could upload that screenshot that you did when you asked your principal for permission to start your PLC and he or she gave you an affirmative response. You can upload that.
Yeah. And that would be my email request and their affirmative response, right?
That's right. That's right. All right. So there's your first one. It's a required one for task 5. We're not worried about all this other stuff. We're worried about your description of the artifact, of the thing. Now, change management is another one.
Notice too that it says this would be fall 2023. You make sure you put up there where you see where it says fall 2017, you would put fall 2023 there. And
down here for your label as well.
Uh-huh.
All right, change management. It's one you have to do. All right, let's look at what your requirements are for this competency. AAPSL, PSYOP, and one open-ended. You pull from the AAPSL. Okay. Again, fall 2023 would be right here, AAPSL. And so she's gone through a description. Just tell me what it is. And down here, I can look at it very quickly. Okay. Now, conflict management is not one of your requirements. I want to show you. Let me go on down through here. Delegation is one of your requirements. Let's look at it. Once again, it says AAPSL. So, fall 2023, and as I delegated the responsibilities to process of the PLC members, blah, 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 blah. And I can pull it up right here. Okay. Dialogue and inquiry, another requirement. Now look at this one. Don't let this throw you. Right here. What do I need to talk about right now? It's a requirement from task 5. I've not done the APTL. I've not done the PSYOP. So from task 5, I'm going to pull an open-ended, something from my clinical. All right. Let's look on down, judgment. Same situation. The APSL's not here. So you're going to pull open-ended.
And remember, open-ended is something that you have done in your clinical experience, not in the
Correct.
actual work.
Correct. All right, then systems thinking is my next one that's required. I can't find it. Where is it?
Down there, near the bottom. Going down
Oh,
there.
right here.
Yeah.
That's another requirement. There's an APSL again. So you upload from the APSL. Remember, you put the semester, where you're pulling from, and the same naming convention is down here on your artifact.
And I'll tell you this, you'll do next semester, you'll do the OMA. So you're going to do it automatically. That's what will come next semester. And then your last semester, you'll do an open-ended one.
Mm-hmm. Now let's look at technology. Okay, Joshua, where am I going to pull my artifact from this semester?
Be through open-ended from
Perfect.
get outside of that.
Perfect. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is you've probably noticed, well, why is that digital learning thing highlighted? Any of your artifacts that involve digital, some type of digital communication, just about everything you do is going to be digital. You need to label it and highlight it. That lets your evaluator or your scorer know that you have taken those digital learning competencies and you woven them all through your artifacts.
So Dr. Revis, that means that this is one time I can highlight something in yellow and I won't get a note back from you and me saying that take the highlighting out, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
And the last one of your 8 that will be required is visionary. And again, you're going to have to go open-ended here. All right, now you got 4 choice. My recommendation, if you're following this thought pattern, my recommendation is to go through here, starting with conflict management. You have to do these 2 anyway. Let's go through the other remaining, how many, 12, 13 right now, and see if I have another APSL anywhere. There's not one there. Creative thinking. That's one I should choose, right? Got to do it anyway. So that's one of my 4 choices. Let's look at customer focus.
Dr. Revis, and we don't want you to, but let's say, what if I forgot to do it this time and I chose one? Would I be able to go back next semester and go back to the APSL and fix it if I forgot?
Yes.
Okay. But try not.
Yeah. I mean, it's just easier while you're doing it to pick the ones that you're engaged in this semester. Customer focus, no, go on. Let's see. Delegation was one of your required. Dialogue and inquiry was one of your required. Emotional intelligence. Nope, it's not got an APSL. Environmental awareness. You see what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to find, are there 4 choice ones any of those have the AAPSL.
And then if they're not, and the 4 you choose, if it's an evidence that you have not done yet, you automatically go to where? To open-ended.
Open-ended. Now this organizational, there's you an AAPSL one. That's 2 of my 4 choices. And so on. I'm not going to go through the whole thing if that's okay. But you see what I'm doing. I'm going through and I'm picking any that have AAPSL and my required ones. Okay.
Dr. You may want to answer Adrian's question before you go on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Adrian. Go ahead.
You're fine. I just wanted to, I'm kind of confused. I know we're supposed to do task 5 and use these competencies, but this part of it, are we supposed to do this by Sunday also?
No,
Okay.
no,
No.
you'll
This is
get,
this
go ahead, Dr. Revis, I'm sorry.
this is later down the road. In fact, if you look on your agenda, I think we are doing the
It's week
Um,
7 and 8. I think they have to have it to us by week 8. I'll pull that up in just a few minutes. But you've
Yeah.
got, as soon as you get task 5 done, you've got to go ahead and start on this.
Okay.
yeah.
I see
Don't
what you're
let it,
saying.
yeah. We're
Yeah.
just kind of giving you it kind of right now toward the end. Some of you are going to kind of accelerate yourself. You're getting through and you've got task 5 complete, and we've told you it's ready to to go into the final AAPSL drop box and to put them on. I mean, you're going to be at different places and we don't want to hold you up. That's why we're kind of foreshadowing this. And I may have done too much foreshadowing.
No, I like it, Dr. Revis, and
Okay.
we will remind you of this next week again. We won't go over it in this detail. We'll remind you of it again because we'll declare the deadline for this next week.
Now let me tell you this. Here are 2 ways you can go wrong here. Number 1, you're not uploading the correct, from the correct thing. You're saying you're uploading something from the AAPSL, but in fact, you're describing something that happened during your clinical work. I will send that back.
Me too.
Or you put a description in here, and that description doesn't have anything to do with this artifact. Describe your artifact. All right.
They must match.
Right. So those are the 2 most frequently kind of missed targets on your competency folio. I review Dr. Stedman's, he reviews my class, and I'll just send them back and tell you got to fix it. So anyway, with that said, do we want to move now and talk about putting all the tasks together, Dr. Stedman?
Before you do that, now we need to remind you, and we'll talk in much more detail about this next week. Remember, you've got to get ready to submit your first 100 hours of clinical experience for us to and all that will come at the same time that this competency folio is due. So be thinking about that. We're not going to discuss that this week, but know that the halfway point's coming up and you've got to give us 100 hours. Okay. And we'll talk about that next week. Jeffrey.
And
You
also,
you
oh, I'm
answered
sorry,
my
go ahead.
question about the internship log, so you're good.
Okay, we'll talk about it more next week too, Jeffrey.
And look where you find your internship logs right here. Okay. It's not going to be in that folio where you're uploading your AAPSL.
And make sure with your internship log, you go back and look what the requirements are, how much you've got to have of this, how much you've got to have of this. It's all spelled out in the information that we've provided you in Blackboard. So go back and look at all of that.
And I think that is down in here.
Internship materials down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Go on down, all the way down.
All the way down. I'm sorry.
Right,
Right here.
right there, uh-huh.
MSA clinical internship resources. And this document will share with you your new requirements, and you can pull it up and look at it. Again, I'm going to be reviewing Dr. Stedman's class. He will be reviewing mine. It has to be done correctly. If you've got too many hours in supervision, you're going to have to do something differently.
And we tell you exactly how many hours, how much time, how much you can have in each one of them.
Right. So, what do you want to look at next? You want to look at that? You want to stop?
Stop share just a minute. I do want to go over one more thing, Dr. I think we've told them enough we've told them enough to get, the main thing is you've got to do task 5 this week. You've got to submit task 4 by Sunday, and go ahead and get task 4 done and get it to us so we can go ahead and clear you. Don't wait till Sunday on it. Most of you are at a place that you can go ahead and take care of that and get that off your plate. The second thing is we must see task 5 before Sunday for us to be able to tell you if you can move on, if you need to. And many of you, when you get it to us Thursday or Friday, many of you will clear you and we'll say, go ahead and submit task 5 to the AAPSL assignment Dropbox. Okay. And then once you do that, we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and jump score, because someone's going to be ready, Dr. Revis.
That's what I'm thinking.
Go ahead and pull that document up, because guess what? When you get through with 5, when we clear you with task 5, and we tell you that to put it in the assignment Dropbox, then there's a next step of putting everything together and getting it ready for the Turnitin process, and then for a final submission to task stream for grade. And once it goes there, it's out of Dr. Revis's hands and my hands. It goes to that outside evaluator. So Dr. Revis, tell them what you're doing now.
Okay, this is a document that can be found in your AAPSL template and materials. It's the process, directions and process for submitting the AAPSL final evidences. There's 4 steps. Do not skip a step. Do not skip a step, okay? Because
let me say something too. You see where number 3 is? Don't you dare even try to mash that thing. Don't you dare mash it. I don't care. Don't let temptation tell you to do it, because if you do, you are in trouble with Dr. Revis and me. So don't go there till we tell you you can go there. It's like in Monopoly. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not go past 2 until we tell you to.
because you only get one chance to do Turnitin, okay? So we want to make sure it's correct in your format before you do that. All right. So it's very easy. You can read this. You combine all of your tasks 1 through 5 into one continuous document. Some of you have been keeping a running document as you've been going, and that's great, because some of you are continuously labeling your appendices entries and in alphabetical order. And so that's great too. You have got to make sure that all your references are at the end of your entire document, and they're all one comprehensive reference list, all alphabetized by authors. That's pretty easy. You've got to take all of your appendix entries out of the end of each individual task that you've had, put them all at the bottom, and make sure you renumber them, re-letter them, ABC, so on. Now, here's the problem. If you haven't kept up with these, then you're going to have to go back in your text and make sure when you say see Appendix D, that it actually is Appendix D. after you renumber it or reletter it. Says my battery's going low. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I thought that was fine when I was looking to see.
I think I'm plugged up, but we'll see. All right. So if you've kept a running list of your lettering, that's great. Both in text and on your appendix entries. That's great. All right. Once you put it all together, Dr. Stedman and I want to review it. We want to look mostly for formatting. Okay. We're looking at formatting. We are looking to make sure, your appendix entries are lettered consecutively and so on and so forth. So you go to your AAPSL Task for Peer and Instructor Review and scroll all the way to the bottom of the AAPSL task. And it's got a place for you, AAPSL Task 1 through 5 for Instructor Review. Create a new thread, upload it. We're
And
the only one.
This document is in Blackboard for you. You don't have to. It's there. You can pull it up. I would I would pull it up and have me a copy right beside.
I would too.
Right beside me.
All right. We look at it. We may either say, go back and fix this or that or whatever. Some of you throughout your documents have some extra spaces between section headings. All that needs to be cleaned up. Get it perfect as you can before you turn it in to us for review. So we'll either tell you to fix something or we'll tell you to move on to the next step, to submit to turn it in. So you go to turn it in. You submit your work, upload your work and turn it in, and we will review your originality report. You won't get originality reports. We get them. Okay? As long as your originality report is within the acceptable threshold, which is, I like to see the first one less than 25%, then we'll tell you you're ready to upload to TaskStream.
And a lot of that 25% is going to be the template, all the words in black that we told you had to stay in there. So that's going to cause the report to be a certain percentage automatically because you're following the template and all of you have the same information. And Dr. Revis, if Jeffrey turns his in first in my class in that C2 group, then and then whoever turns it in second, by the time the last one turns it in, their originality report is probably going to be higher than what Jeffrey's is because they are submitting it after it's already been put into the system. But we know that. So Dr. Revis, what are we looking for? If there's a problem, what are we looking for in that original report?
Yeah, we can pull the originality report. If I get something 30%, I pull it, I examine it. Again, I know that a large percentage, I think maybe 13 to 15% is going to come from the template that everybody has uploaded. And your work is going to be looked at against anybody that's ever uploaded any work at Gardner Webb. Okay. So I'm going to start looking to see where it's getting flagged. Sometimes it gets flagged because you have not paraphrased well enough from one of your references. Sometimes it gets flagged if we do put some parameters on, words less than 4 are not going to get flagged. But if you've copied, if that word is within a passage that you've copied and not cited, it's going to flag it. So,
Revis, in other words, you and I can be in the same class, and when I was doing peer reviews, and I was peer reviewing work, and I copied some of Dr. Revis's work and I put it in my work, and Dr. Revis submits her work for Turnitin first, guess what it's going to do? It's going to show up on that Turnitin report, and it's going to say, your work is, there's a problem because your work is the same thing as Dr. Revis's, and it's just been turned in. It tells us specifically.
Okay. And I'm sure you're familiar with Turnitin and how that works, but again, you only get one time to submit it. You can't resubmit it because then you'd have 100% match because your stuff's already in there. So don't go to this or to task stream until we tell you you can.
Because
So-
what we're going to do is once you turn it into us and we clear it under instructor review, we're going to say, great work, submit to the Turnitin process. If you're cleared with the Turnitin process, once it clears in there, we'll look at it. If you're cleared with that, we're going to say, excellent, submit to task stream in your DRF, submit to task stream for final evaluation. And then once you're cleared, once it goes there, it's out of Dr. Revis in my hands. We can't do anything else with it other than accept the grade from the evaluator. So
if you have issues with your originality report, you would look at your your Turnitin feedback from Turnitin, look at it in Migrate, just like you do everything else.
Right.
If there are issues with it, we will also send you an email.
Well,
we're
we're probably going to talk to you personally.
Yeah, we'll have to set up a phone conversation with you. And hopefully that doesn't happen with anybody.
Right. We hope not. Tanya, you have a question?
Yes. Do we need to put the word SEEC Appendix A? Because I mean, I hadn't done that in my paper. I just put Appendix A, Appendix B. So I need to go back and put SEE in my papers.
Mhm.
And
It's lowercase.
And I didn't catch that, Tanya, so thank you.
Okay. Well, that helps me. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And the S is lowercase.
Oh, that's a good thing to know.
Okay. All right. Any questions on this process? And again, you're going to be in all different places for the next couple of weeks, and that's okay. It's not a race. Okay. It's not a race.
I don't want it to be either.
I don't want it to be. You need to make sure you've done a lot of hard work, guys. You need to make sure that the work that you do submit for your evaluator is reflective of that hard work. So don't rush through it just to say, I can sit back and rest a week. Okay. You're probably not going to rest anyway, because we'll give you something else to do, but just don't rush through it.
Dr. Revis, I actually had it on our agenda to introduce them to the case study, but I'm not going to do it. We'll have time to do it next Tuesday, and they'll just complete it next Tuesday before Sunday, because it'll be due that Sunday. But I think it's too much to go into that.
I do too, and you'll enjoy the case study.
Agreeing with me.
You will enjoy the case study, but you may want to go ahead and schedule your Zoom meeting for the case study next Thursday, not this Thursday, but next Thursday.
And we'll talk about it Tuesday, and you'll have time to do your independent work on it on Wednesday, and hopefully do it on Thursday. But anyway, let's wait until Tuesday to talk about it, because I think it'll be an overload if we try to go into that tonight.
Yeah, and I probably shouldn't have gone into that competency folio. So
No. I'm glad you did that. That was great.
okay. Well, I don't want to throw more at you than your mind can only absorb so much.
I think they needed that to see how the competencies for AAPSL and the competency for how they align themselves. And the difference.
And I think while you're making your choices of those 4 optional, you need to be wise in doing that.
Let me make a suggestion. While you're doing the 12 competencies for the AAPSL, automatically say, oh, this is an artifact I can pull for that, and go ahead and pull that artifact and have it somewhere saved, so that when you get ready to do your folio, I mean, you've already thought about it, you know where it is, and you don't have to dig for it. That's working smart and not harder.
And you should have all the artifacts that you need for your competency folio from your AAPSL work already.
Jeffrey, do you have
All
a
right.
question?
So with the competency portfolio, is that, I mean, after we're done with this course, could that be used to send to an interview process and all that good stuff?
Absolutely. That's what you're building. You're building a resume with this, Jeffrey.
Okay.
That's why you want it to be as professional as you can make it, because it's going to represent you. You use it for that, but it's automatically going to go to NCDPI for your licensure purposes. Okay, Randy?
So going back to the task 5, I know you said at the bottom you had all the 8 competencies in yellow to take out, correct? Like once you're done.
Yeah,
So
all that information at the bottom is just information. That is
Okay.
none of that is included in your task 5.
Okay. That's what
Yeah.
I was making sure, because like then you had the full number below it, but it wasn't in yellow, so I just wanted to make sure we take it all out.
Well, I did that. I did that when we created that document so that it wouldn't all blend together to show some.
Okay, that makes sense. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Catherine?
So I have a question about task 4. I was scheduled to meet with my admin for the presentation tomorrow. But yesterday we had a very major incident in our school that basically shut everything down for today and the rest of the week. And they're not doing sort of any extracurricular meetings or anything. Would it be okay if I have like a one-on-one meeting with one of the admins and just report on that?
I think that would be fine. Just sit at the table with them, go through your presentation and data, and that'll be fine.
And Catherine, have somebody to take a picture of you sitting with that as a part of your artifacts for that.
And I'm so sorry about your incident. It must be pretty severe for that to happen. I'm really sorry.
Pretty intense.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody good? And honestly, once you get into those 12 competencies, you're going to realize it's going to start flowing. You've lived it. You've done it. So honestly, if you'll set aside, devote some 2 or 3 hours, just sit down and work on that, you can knock that out.
And I have to tell you, and I think I can tell you this, Dr. Seven and I talk several times a week. I will tell you this from my perspective, and I've been teaching several years, you know that. This is the strongest class overall that I've ever had.
Me
You
too.
guys
I've
are
been doing this.
rocking it.
I've been doing this 10 years with Gardner Webb. I see great potential with this group. And I've told Dr. Lamb that. We've bragged on you. So don't let us down. Okay.
And some of you, we're going to be talking here in a few weeks about thinking about the doctoral program, because we've got a lot of good candidates in here.
I agree. Emmy?
Hi there. I have a quick question about our action plan moving forward. In the future, will we be held accountable for fulfilling the action plan, or is it a proposal, turn it in, and kind of move on to the next portfolio?
We hope that it can be implemented. That's entirely left up to your administration. If it can't, then you have fulfilled your responsibilities. And when you become a principal, you know what to do.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, Renee?
Dr. Revis, you had
Yes.
you had mentioned about a disclaimer for the administration if they were on your PLC team to place that. You are cutting out. Where exactly did you ask us to put that? Just so I can make sure I have it located properly.
Okay, great. Thank you, Renee, for telling me I was cutting out. You put that right underneath your action plan figure. After you show your figure, come right below it, start a new paragraph. That's where the evaluators are really going to look for your presentation.
And if any of you have not done that in my class or in Dr. Revis's class, when you're putting it all together, you can go back and put that in there. And Dr. Revis, I know I have said take all the yellow highlighting out, honestly, so that they don't miss that. That is the one place that I probably would accept a yellow highlighting when you put that disclaimer in there. So that we don't want them to miss that at all.
Again, they go through it pretty quickly because think about how many pages you're going to be turning in. It's going to be well over 100 pages, right? So they're going to go through, they're going to crank it through. If they can't find your presentations, they'll mark you down.
Guys,
And
before we close out tonight, are you seeing now? This is phase one of the school improvement process. Did you see how it works? And what you're doing, this is like chapter one. When you do the AAPSL, that's going to be like chapter two. And then when you get to the third semester, when you do the SIOP, that's when you put it all together, the whole thing together. So you're beginning to see how all this works. Good.
all right, guys, have a good rest of the week. Enjoy nothing to do on Thursday other than your work, of course, but
And please know, I know we come across pretty rigid and hard sometimes, but we care for our students, and we want only the best. So if it comes across that way, I'm going to do this. You can practice this. Everybody do this. Do this. And you can use this sometime. Just smile at people and say, build a bridge and get over it. And they can move on.
well, and we definitely
would like that.
and we definitely are teaching to the test, right?
Right.
We are teaching, we know we've worked with it long enough. We want those evaluators to be able to see the good hard work that you've done and the growth that you've exhibited through this process. And so that's why we tell you to do something in a particular order. It's not that we're just, kind of want to be authoritative and, control freaks. It's that we want nothing to be missed. That's the thing.
And
all right, build a bridge, right?
Right, build a bridge and get over it.
All right.
We'll see you next week.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.